Okay. All right. So this is the second class of Health Foundations 101, Faith, Health, and Food. And last week we spent most of the time, but all the time, on the Word of God, knowing that we were created in His image and His likeness, and He wants us to have knowledge because Hosea 4:6 says that we're destroyed by lack of knowledge. And if we have the faith of the promise in 1 Peter 2:24 that says, by His stripes we have been healed, then we have to put our faith into action. Faith without action is dead. And so I love the Word of God, and so that was key. That was a key way for me to start, just that's where my perspective is, and really it's to help people reach the destiny and the plan and the purpose. Jeremiah 29:11 says that God has a plan and a purpose for us, and a future and a hope. And so there's always hope, no matter what sign, symptom, diagnosis that somebody has, there's always hope. I don't care what the doctor says. I don't care what your friends and family say. If God said it can happen, it can happen. But what's my responsibility? What do I have to do? What action do I need to do? So today's class, oh, wait, hold on. Let me see. Come on. There we go. That's me. I'm a certified functional nutrition counselor and a functional nutrition lifestyle practitioner. And we talked a little bit about what functional nutrition is last week. And it's really looking at the root, finding out why something is happening, not just, okay, you have this, take this pill. Usually when you want to heal, it's not just one pill. It's a shift, and a lot of times it's a shift in lifestyle practitioner, in your lifestyle. We had, what does God's word say about health? And then today we're going to talk about toxins. What are they and how to reduce them? And then we have the next couple of weeks as well. Next week will be nutrition and the absorbability of the food that we eat and the condition of our gut. And then in 2 weeks, it'll be how to position yourself for health and wellness. Class worksheet will be actually a class quiz when I send out the follow-up email. Today's focus and goal are to define toxins and identify the most common toxins in our environment, understanding the impact of toxins in your body, and learning how to reduce toxic exposure and mitigate their effects, and then take action. We'll have a take action step again. Hello, everybody that just logged in. Nice to see you. And then we'll do some question and answers afterwards. So Luke 1:37, for nothing will be impossible with God. Okay, so do you recognize these toxins? These are all toxins. We see some normal stuff in our everyday lives, whether it's fluoride or chlorine or amalgams in our teeth, which have mercury in them, and they when you drink something hot, they release fumes. And so I had mine taken out a while ago. Microplastics, GMOs, chemtrails. There's just a host of things that we're bombarded with. The good thing is God created our bodies so that we could deal with the toxins. But we get overloaded, right? And then our bodies start to break down a little bit. And so, not a little bit, sometimes a lot. And so what we want to do is we're just going to kind of dive right into some of these. And we're going to start with water. Water can, we're going to start with water and then tap water in particular to start with. There's a host of chemicals in tap water, including fluoride, chlorine, herbicides like atrazine, pesticides, pharmaceuticals, PFAs. There's just a whole host of things. And if you're interested in finding out what's in your tap water, because you may have heard that not drinking tap water is something that you don't want to do because it has a lot of contaminants. And ewg.org at /tap water. If you click on this QR code, it'll take you to that website. You can put in your, whatever state we have people from different places, whatever state you're in, you can just put in your zip code and it'll pull it up. And you can see what you did. And I did the zip code actually for our church, 95119. So it's in San Jose. And this is the results. I just ran it 2 days ago. And there are 23 total contaminants and 11 exceeded the guidelines. And we're going to talk about a few of these. Does everybody remember Erin Brockovich? Erin Brockovich, she did an investigation and in Hinckley, California, true story, and uncovered that PG&E contaminated the city's water source with chromium from their whatever processing they were doing. And chromium is genotoxic. It damages our genes and leads to cancer. And there were a number of people who were very sick and died. And in addition to that, it can impact your lungs, your nasal, sinus, cancer, damage the skin, eyes, and respiratory systems, and it can lead to kidney and liver damage. And you can have allergic reactions. It's not so good. But in this particular sample, it's 189 times it's 189 times what it's supposed to be, and not what the government says it's supposed to be. It's what EWG says it should be. And typically their numbers are lower if they're not at the same as the federal and the state governments. So there was quite a bit of chromium in there. And this is the real Erin Brockovich. And then there's fluoride. I don't know if you've heard a lot in the news about fluoride lately, but there has been a recommendation to take it out of the water. So what is fluoride? It's a byproduct of the aluminum industry, and it happened around the end of World War II. And there was a lot of aluminum, there was a lot of waste, and so they found another possible use for it. Instead of them having to pay for the waste, they figured that it might help teeth. There was a process in what they did, but the purpose was to help teeth and to decrease cavities in children. And then, are there any side effects or harms of ingesting fluoride? So it's a neurotoxin, and neurotoxin is a toxin that destroys the nerve tissue. It impairs IQ. It's almost a dumbing down, and prolonged exposure weakens the bones, which is kind of odd because your teeth are bone too. So, but if you have too much fluoride, they'll crumble. It impairs the kidney, the thyroid, increases infertility, and the fluorosis is when you have dark spots on your teeth or it starts discoloring, stiffness. And then you get exposed through toothpaste. So one of the things you can do is you can purchase a toothpaste without fluoride or make your own. Water, mouthwash, foods and drinks that are made with fluoridated water. One of the things that I've been doing more often now I always read labels. So that's a nugget. Always read labels. And if it just says water, now I probably won't buy it. If it says filtered water, I'm more likely to buy it. Because if it's just water, it's tap water. And depending on where they got the water from. So this is the pineal gland, and fluoride impacts the pineal gland. And it's located outside of the blood-brain barrier. It's very vascular, and it's the organ that has the most fluoride in it. It captures it. And the pineal gland produces melatonin, which is a hormone that regulates sleep and wake cycles. And so it can impact sleep if you have too much fluoride. Because what the fluoride does to the pineal gland, it can actually, if you have too much, it can calcify it. And so the calcification of it can be associated with mental health disorders and mood disorders or anxiety. And the vulnerable population are children and pregnant women. I remember when I was a kid and they were starting to talk about adding fluoride. My mom actually got Alhambra, and she bought the one with fluoride in it before they started putting fluoride in the water source. But it actually could not be so beneficial. All right. So we also have PFAS. It's per and polyfluoroalkyl substance. I may have said that wrong, but what are they? They're man-made chemicals that don't easily break down. If you've ever heard of forever chemicals, these are forever chemicals. What's its purpose? So PFAS, they're a product that are used on anything that's fire resistant, stain resistant, heat, or anything that is resistant to grease or water, whatever it is, on a wide variety of products. And are there any side effects and harms of ingesting? Oh, I put fluoride. No, I didn't change it, but it's the PFAS. It's reduced immune response. So your immune system, about 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. It's super important to make sure that your gut is in good health. We'll talk more about the nutrient density next week. But if it's reducing immune response, that means it's impacting your digestive system. And it can cause reproductive issues, increased risk of kidney and testicular cancer, and may cause developmental problems in children. They are not good chemicals. Oh, I didn't do this one. Look at there. There we go. Oh, yes, I did. So they're exposed through stain and water resistance for fabrics and carpeting, cleaning products and personal products, firefighting foams, cookware, non-stick pans. If you have non-stick pans, I would ask you to consider swapping them out for stainless steel, for cast iron, they have some ceramic that are good. I don't have them because they break easily. But stainless steel and cast iron and if you have a gas stove, you can use glass as well. Those would be the better options. Nonstick pans, when they are heated, and if a bird flies over the pan, the fumes from the pan, not the heat, but the fumes from the pan will kill the bird. And that's not even if it's scratched, because I think we've all heard when you scratch the pan, get rid of it, because then you start ingesting it. So and then it's got to include packaging. All right. Air fryers. If you have an air fryer and it's black inside, or it has or gray or whatever color it is, but it's non-stick, there is probably a warning if you still have the box. Probably don't have the box, but if you look at them at the store, the warning says for this one, it's California Prop 65 warning. It talks about the chemicals that are in there. Every time you heat something up, the chemicals are baking it in. They do have air fryers that are either glass or stainless steel. Those are the better options. And if you search for non-toxic air fryers, you'll get a few that pop up. But those are not healthy options with the regular air fryer. So some other common chemicals, atrazine, which is a herbicide. I looked that up. I didn't see any in I'm in California. So in my general area, there were 2 locations in California that impacted like a relatively small amount of folks. But like in Texas, there's a lot of atrazine. There are a lot of different areas in Texas that have atrazine in the water. It's an herbicide, and there was a test done on African frogs, and the male frogs were feminized. They were essentially castrated, and so their sex changed. So what's it doing to humans? I don't know. So, and I got that information off of EWG, that the link I shared with you earlier. Okay, aluminum. It's linked with neurological, gut issues, and liver damages. Excuse all my typos, please. And we're going to talk a little bit more we're going to go a little bit deeper with aluminum in just a few minutes. Chlorine, it increases the risk for immune disorders, cancer, asthma, airway inflammation, respiratory allergies, dizziness, nausea, and fatigue. That's like the swimming pool, you know? We'll talk a little bit more about chlorine as well. And then pharmaceuticals. There are so many pharmaceuticals being taken that they do get into our water supply. So what do we do about it? Option number 1, you can get a glass water filter pitcher. Actually, on here before I had this is a Brita. And I was like, why do they have it in plastic? Not that there's still probably not some plastic part of this, but this is a glass water pitcher, filter pitcher. And so this is a better option than the plastic one. And so that's option number 1. The next 2 options are my favorite. Reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis will take the fluoride out. It'll take a lot of things out. And on the EWG website, it gives recommendations of how to get certain chemicals out. So if you're in a certain area and you have certain, it tells you the chemicals, you can click on it and it'll tell you what type of filter will filter that out. And so reverse osmosis, I like it because it relatively is just a $200 or $300. You can have it attached, have a plumber, or if you're handy, put it underneath your sink, and you will filter the tap water to drink. So it's fairly simple. There are a lot of other waters you can do, but I'm just going to keep it simple for right now. We could do a whole class on waters. So reverse osmosis. And then this third one is the whole house water filter system. And there are many different options. I've had one for a few decades, and I had to change it out less than 5 years ago. But so I actually specifically had whatever, taking out everything, but then fluoride too. So those are some water filter options. And then EWG has options as well. Okay. And then if you're drinking bottled water, you want to stay away from the plastic bottles, if at all possible, because that's where you get microplastics. And we'll talk a little bit more about microplastics in a little bit. Or did we do it already? I don't think we did. You might want the better option is, excuse me, to purchase glass bottles. And these are just some examples. Mountain Valley, and then a couple, I think Boss has a glass one as well. So those are some options. A better option almost is, again, you can get water bottles that are not plastic, but glass. You can get the water bottle or the glass. And the problem with the plastic, it's an estrogen mimic, causes obesity, neurological disorders, thyroid impacts the thyroid, cancer risk, breast and prostate, and neuroblastoma, and heart disease and diabetes. So it's just one more thing. And so what we look for is we're not fearful about any of this. God does not give us a spirit of fear, but one of love, power, and a sound mind. This is just to give knowledge to say, oh, I can get this instead of this. Okay. All right, so we're going to dig into aluminum. The common sources of aluminum toxicity, we talked about water already, is deodorant. It's if you look at your deodorant, look at the ingredient list. If it says anything about alum or aluminum or something like that, you want to shift your deodorant to one that doesn't have it. And there are plenty. I've even seen them at Costco. And they're pretty good about saying that they don't have them in there. Baking powder, lots of baking powders have aluminum in there. And so you just have to read the ingredients to see if there's aluminum in the baking powder. Aluminum foil, aluminum cookware, and vaccines. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the vaccines in a minute. Actually, we're going to talk about it. Oh, yeah. And then the aluminum toxicity. So it's associated with a host of different diseases. A lot, the liver is impacted, the gut is impacted, your brain is impacted. It's just a cadre of things. So this is something about aluminum and vaccines. So the High Wire is it's a show, I guess. It's online. And in 2023, he was talking about vaccines with aluminum in it. There have been no studies done. On the effectiveness of the vaccine with, let me see, how do I put this? There have been no tests or studies on the impact of aluminum on humans. And so there's a list of vaccines with aluminum, and I'll tell you the where you can get that if you're interested. The EPA, this is interesting. The EPA limits on aluminum, so like 25 micrograms based on a rat study is what they said. The EPA said we shouldn't take more than 25 micrograms in at any time. Ingesting it, not by a shot. And the amount of aluminum in the vaccines injected into the babies in that Hep B vaccine that they were recommending on the first day, and recently it came off of a recommendation. It's not recommended on the first day anymore. I think they may still, but legally it's not from the CDC. But there's 250 micrograms of aluminum, 10 times the maximum of 25 mcg. 25 mcg is bring out the white suits and it's toxic. But there's 250 micrograms of aluminum in that vaccine that gets shot into a brand new baby. And They just did a request in 2019. And then there's a link about the U.S. having the first day infant mortality, the highest first day infant mortality out of the industrialized world, which is a shame. We should be the healthiest. These are just some of the vaccines with aluminum in it, regular ones. So this I thought I'd share with you because I pulled it off of a healthfreedominstitute.com. And what this is it identifies which, I think the red, all the reds, those are just another way to look at which ones have aluminum. And there's other ingredients in there too, like polysorbate 80, formaldehyde, and others. And this is a key that they use. There are preservatives in vaccines, disinfectants, antibiotics, detergents, fertilizers, heavy metals, animal or insect parts, aborted fetal cells, or human parts. So it was very informative for me. So I'm sorry, I didn't put the QR code, but the website is healthfreedominstitute.com. And if you're interested and you want to know more about vaccines, let me know and I'll put a class together. I have a mountain of information, and it's just information. Everybody, I believe, should have information and make your own decision. And as long as it's an informed decision, that's fine because you can make that decision. Okay. Let's talk about chlorine a little bit more. The common sources are water, and that's not only drinking, but also showering. So if your house has water, or like when I go to a hotel, like I think they use a lot of chlorine, not just in cleaning, but when in the water that they use or whatever, because it always smells like chlorine to me. But and your skin is your largest organ, and so it's going to absorb all of that. Bleach, of course, is chlorine, and the swimming pools. There are swimming pools that are salt water swimming pools. I don't know what they use to clean, but they're supposed to be not as harsh. What symptoms do you get? Skin irritation, eye irritation, sore throat, coughing, fatigue, wheezing. It can be linked to asthma, allergies, hair loss, eye and sinus and throat irritation. Hair loss. I think my hair was falling out. It's growing back now because I was not going to have my hair fall out. But I think it had to do with, I was in the pool a few times over the summer in chlorine, and on top of other things, it just did me in. But now I understand from my naturopath that one of the things that can, that before you get into a chlorinated pool or something like that, take iodine. It helps block it. So you can have GI issues, headaches, increased risk for bladder and rectal cancer, and an increased risk for heart disease. Okay, some common air pollutants, just a cadre of things, pathogens, which are viruses, bacteria, and mold, pesticides and herbicides, chemicals, even like the off-gassing of stuff that is new coming into the house, and cleaners and plastics, of course. Let's see. Another thing is chemtrails or geoengineering. What are chemtrails and geoengineering? It's climate mitigation. And is there any proof of climate mitigation? Well, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office of the United States of America has 150 patents dating back to July 16th, 1891, which was for the method It was called The Method of Producing Rainfall. That was in 1891. So if you are interested in this, the QR code on this sheet will take you to those 150 patents, and you could look at that and see what it says. There's some interesting ones. Yeah. And then what's the problem? So whatever is sprayed in the sky, it impacts our air. It's falling on us. And so how do we it's just another thing to mitigate it within our air. And so how are we going to improve our air quality? So indoors, we have some opportunities because we are, we have our homes and even if it's in our job. So open the windows 15 minutes a day, even if it's cold outside, just to get the air flowing through. That's fairly simple. The salt lamps, they kind of clean out the air. Plants, actually, I just started growing plants and they're not dying, which is an awesome thing. And so I love it because, and what spurred me to do that was I started seeing these social media posts and, the certain plants suck up certain chemicals. And I was like, well, I need that. And so I started getting plants. And some of you have lots of plants. I know that. And then you can diffuse essential oils. They can sanitize the place. And room air purifiers. This particular one that I put here is by Air Doctor, and I like that one. And they have other good ones as well. Some other things to reduce toxins in the environment is if you're going to do some painting, get some low volatile organic compound paints. They don't have the smells and they don't off gas. Non-toxic cookware and utensils. We talked a little bit about the non-stick, not to get those. So these are the cast iron and the stainless steel. You can make your own cleaners. I don't know if you can see this, but this is just an example, and you can get them all over social media or on the internet. Different disinfectant room sprays. That's this one with essential oils and yeah. And then buy organic. We'll talk a little bit about that today, but we'll talk about it more next week on top of other things. All right, let's see. Okay, we're going to talk about microplastics. What are microplastics? Plastic made out of synthetic compounds, relatively inexpensive, and can be molded into whatever shape is needed. We see it all the time. We see plastic all the time. We go to the store, all our food's wrapped in plastic. And what's the purpose? Almost anything and everything. You can use plastic for anything because it starts with plastic before it gets to micro or nano. So what do microplastics do to our body and how do they impact our health? So microplastics are toxic to the brain, liver, lungs, and gut. Nanoplastics can pass through the placenta to the baby and cross the blood-brain barrier. Nanoplastics, are 1 nanometer in size or less. That's how come they can pass through the blood-brain barrier and the placenta. Aluminum can pass the blood-brain barrier as well as mercury, by the way. It impacts organ health, heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, energy, and metabolism. It can trigger DNA dysfunction, inflammation, infertility, nutrient absorption, and hormone imbalance. If we can't absorb our nutrients, our cells are not going to get what they need, and then we start malfunctioning. Microplastics. Again, so exposed through Those receipts that we get everywhere? Actually, now some of them they're sending them to us electronically, like Whole Foods does, Walmart does. So thermal receipts at the stores, that's a form of microplastics. Plastic water bottles shift over to the glass or stainless steel. Plastic or paper cups, they're lined in plastic. Um, plastic food containers and utensils, even if they're not plastic and they're the paper kind, they still have a plastic lining. Of course, plastic bags, personal products. This is something I learned. Some products like toothpaste, facial scrubs, exfoliants, body washes, when they have these like little beads in them, they're actually plastic. They're micro beads, so they're essentially microplastics. So any product that has the ingredients polyethylene or polypropylene on the ingredient list. So this is another example of why you should read the ingredient list, even on your personal products. Because if it's in there, that means they have plastics in the product. Clothing, polyester, rayon, these different materials, they're plastic. Reducing exposure. How do we reduce our exposure to these microplastics? They're everywhere, but we just do what we can, and God honors the rest. And we minimize holding those receipts. I grab, like if I take it, I grab it and I put it under something, or I have them put it in. We use stainless steel or glass to drink out of. We filter water. I always say reverse osmosis. There are other filtering systems. Bottled water, glass bottles. Clothing, wear natural fiber clothes, organic cotton, linen, hemp, and wool. And I've just started switching over and being more conscious about that. And you can't, it would be hard to switch over all at the same time. So and read the ingredient labels of whatever it is. And in this case, it's to avoid polyethylene and polypropylene in personal products. I don't know what else they put those in too, so just be aware of those too. Okay, this is a little bit on GMOs. So GMOs, genetically modified organisms. I don't know if you knew this or not, but they have a new term and it's called bioengineered. Always trying to be tricky. Always. So don't always believe the marketing of it, that it's healthy, that it's natural, that it's, it's the best product. Read the ingredient list. Look to see for those because it's just marketing. So GMOs, if you see bioengineered, it's GMO. And I think this is, so right now, there might be another one too, but there's at least 12 crops that are genetically modified. Alfalfa, apples, Arctic variety, and it's to make the apples not brown. Now, if you eat food, it should probably spoil because that's the way God designed it to happen. If it's not turning brown or it's not spoiling, is it going to break down in your body the way it's supposed to and give the nutrients it's supposed to? So I wonder. So canola is rapeseed oil. And so I think it's the CAN stands for Canada, and I can't remember what the other part stands for. Maybe one of you does. Corn, cotton. There was a story I read, and saw. Was it in India or Africa? It was somewhere, and they had grown GMO cotton. And then after they picked the cotton, they let a herd, I think it was sheep or goats, go in there and eat it. They died. So it's toxic. Eggplants, papaya, certain different varieties. Pineapple, the pink flesh varieties. I saw this one time at a grocery outlet. How can a pineapple be pink? I mean, it's cute, but it's GMO. Just know that. Potatoes, and again, to make it not brown. And then soybeans, squash, and sugar beet. So sugar, we'll talk more about sugar next week. But when you look at an ingredient list, again, read ingredients. When you look at an ingredient list and you know it has sugar, if you're going to choose sugar, make sure it says cane sugar. Because if it says sugar with just sugar, it's sugar beet. And if it's sugar beet, it's 99.9% GMO. And so if it says cane sugar, the benefit of cane sugar is that it's not GMO and you don't get those extra pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate, aka Roundup. So that's a big deal. I don't think I put that in here, but Roundup, everybody knows what Roundup is, yeah? So it's the active ingredient in there is glyphosate. Glyphosate is what they spray on these plants, and it kills everything but the plants because the plants are genetically modified to not die from this herbicide. I think that's what it is. And so what I learned recently is glyphosate is an antibiotic. And we've heard over the years, don't take antibiotics all the time because we're getting resistant to it. And so every time we're eating a GMO food, we're eating an antibiotic. And that's a huge problem because it impacts our gut. And remember, our gut has 70 to 80% of our immune system, which we want to build up. So after talking about all of these different toxins, I realize it seems like there's a lot, and every time we turn, they're here. But if we mitigate, why do we mitigate? So because it'll just take one last straw, and it'll break the camel's back, and that could be our health. And so what we want to do is we want to minimize the impact, make wise choices, and be intentional about being healthy because God has a plan and a purpose for each one of us. And that plan and purpose includes, I believe, us walking in health and wellness. Deuteronomy 34:7 says that Moses lived to be 120 years old. He never lost his vigor and his eyes never dimmed. And Genesis 6:3 says that he's given us 120 years. I don't know how many years I have, but if he says he's given us 120 and I just turned 60 a couple years ago, that means I have a whole nother life. Like I can do whatever he wants me to do. And this is it right now, to share the information that I've learned and am learning with others so that you can have a life. My prayer is always have a life that is fulfilling your destiny. And my prayer is always that we would live out every day that the Lord has for us, walking, talking, hearing, and seeing. Because I don't see anything in the Bible that says that we're in a sick bed for years and years. So, and we have a choice in that. And it's just by understanding, just knowledge and making choices. Are we always going to be perfect about doing everything? No. But we can be intentional about learning and making wise choices. So this is our challenge for this week. We want to read read all your labels. Sometimes it takes longer in the store. Sometimes I do research before I go to the store. And just because you bought it last time and it was good ingredients, read it again right before you buy it because they change ingredients. I used to buy the butter at Costco. This is before I went to organic butter, but I used to buy the blue butter years ago. And it was just, I always looked at the ingredients. It was cream and salt. And then one day I looked at it. I was like, I should check this. And I did. And it said it had yellow food coloring in it. Yellow food coloring is one of the food coloring in general is not good. But that one can cause violence in people. That's one of the side effects on top of ADHD and a bunch of other things. So I stopped buying it. And it took about 2 years for them to take it out. I just kept checking because I was interested. I didn't buy it again, but yeah. So read the labels of your personal products and take note whether or not there are microplastics ingredients in those products. If yes, consider swapping it out with a cleaner product. Small steps make big impacts. You know, something just came to mind, and I didn't talk about. It's a toxic story. So my daughter had moved back home, and she brought her dog, and she's a little dog, and you have to clean the dog every time he comes inside. And so she has Target's wipes, the ones that are hypoallergenic, that are supposed to be nothing in them. And so, I'd help, if I was by the door, I'd let them in and I'd clean them. So I was getting on my hands. And it took a few weeks, but I started getting this rash. It was all over my front and my back. I didn't feel anything different, except I had this rash. And and so probably about 2 months in, because I didn't know what it was. And I stopped and I asked, I talked to God and I asked him, he's like, I go, what was I doing? And when did this start? And then it dawned on me I was using those wipes. And so I stopped. I stopped using those. And um, within 3 or 4 weeks, it had completely gone. And so I started doing research on, there was a chemical in there that's in all the baby wipes that are all um, hyperallergenic that look like they're really clean. Because I went to Walmart and checked all of them except for one, wet ones. They only have like grapefruit juice. There might be something else, but it doesn't impact me at all. So you never know how these toxins, just pay attention to your body and it'll tell you what's going on. 3 John 1, 2. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. And that's my contact information. On this LinkedIn, it just has some information. Like there's a couple of videos, and if you are interested in vaccines, I have some videos, the links to them in there, or you can contact me. But all right.